So I do also want to mention at this time that Matt Borne is with the company as Doink the Clown. You obviously had a lot of history with Matt dating back to the Rat Pack days in Mid South. Did you have any kind of a relationship with Matt here during his short run as Doink?
Not really. I mean, just to say hello, how you doing? And I mean, I never, kind of like, I knew Matt. I knew him business wise. I mean, I saw him in the dressing room. I worked with him, but I didn't have any social life with Matt Bourne whatsoever. So, it wasn't like he was one of my, it's kind of like now one of my really good friends by the name of, he's that great big guy from upstate New York that carries the board.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah, Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
I've heard of him.
He's a very good friend of mine, and he and Matt Bourne, they had a little history.
I know that those two had a. It was covered on Matt Bourne's Dark Side of the Ring, which came out recently. If you folks haven't seen it, I strongly recommend you go check it out. It's a pretty wild story. But yeah, it's indicated that they had heat dating way back, and I am curious. So I mean, you're tight with Jim. Is there any? Do you have a little heat with Matt as a result of your buddy Jim having some
No,
heat with him?
no,
Not at all.
yeah, no, not that I never had bad. I don't think I ever had a cross word with him.
Wow. Okay. I've heard he was, and they kind of outlined in this Dark Side of the Ring that he was a pretty volatile personality. So pretty remarkable that you never really had a run in with him if you were spending a bunch of time around him.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like there's some guys that you want to spend time with, and there's some guys that you don't care to spend time with. And that would, I kept my relationship with him pretty professional.
Okay. In the ring and
Yeah.
locker room only. Well, I do want to ask before we get off the subject. Matt is coming. He was a second generation star and great worker, and kind of been a badass for most of his career. And now he's here in the WWF as a clown. What did you think?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I'd have wanted. I don't know if I'd have wanted to be Doink the Clown. But again, when you take into the consideration the changes that had taken place in the wrestling business. I mean, I was old school. I mean, I grew up, and my dad and Dory Funk Sr. had a 3.5 hour Texas death match in Amarillo, Texas in 1966.
Hmm.
Old school, protect the business type wrestling. I was from that school, that era of wrestling. So what I wanted, to do was I wanted that to continue. And when I saw what Vince was doing at the beginning of it, with the almost the cartoon type of stuff and what have you, the Cindy Lauper and all that, I was angry, but it took me a while to understand that Vince McMahon has now made a way to make wrestling mainstream.
Hmm.
I mean, it's kind of like uh, wrestling is the bastard child of the entertainment industry. In other words, wrestling, uh, entertainment. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like we're the, we're down here. We're on the last rung.
Hmm.
Vince McMahon made pro wrestling acceptable.
He made it like the toast of the town,
Yeah,
where all of a
exactly.
sudden you guys go from being almost like a carnival type
Yeah.
business where you're just traveling town
Yes.
to town
Right.
to mainstream to pop
Right.
culture. So
Absolutely.
pretty cool. And yeah, it's
And
like
yeah, that's what Vince did for professional wrestling. Yeah, I remember Arn Anderson and I had this conversation, and Art said, Ted, Vince doesn't like wrestling. You know, it's like, if it could be anything else. And so he's always been trying to make it something more worthy, more acceptable. And,
mhm.
and, and that's why all these other things came along now. And today I'm grateful. I mean, like it's like January, February, March, April, May, June. That's right. This is the end of the second quarter. I got my second royalties check.
All
Uh,
right.
yeah, and it was a pretty dang good one.
Man, hard to argue with the
Oh,
results,
oh
right?
yeah. I mean, I have kids. I come up and well, kids that are now full grown men come up to get my autographs and stuff, and they tell me about all these video games they played that I was in, and I know about them, but I never saw one.
You've
You
never
know,
seen,
I've never,
footage?
no, I've never laid eyes on me in a video game.
Wow. Alright, well, we're gonna have to change that at some point. I'm gonna get some of these images on here so you can see them.
Oh gosh.
But man, it's, and look, when it came to Matt as Doink the Clown, it's I think a lot of guys would see that creative and probably shut themselves down a little bit and be like, "Come on, this guy's making me a clown. I'm coming into this territory." Matt took that ball and ran with it probably better than most other people could have, right?
Well, and then when Matt left, Steve Kern,
Yes.
who I respect as a really pretty damn good wrestler, you know, took it and he ran with it and he did well with it as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's, on paper, I think most people would say, "Boy, that gimmick sucks," but, I mean, it had some longevity, and those guys did some really cool stuff with it.
Yeah, exactly.